Everyone, my name is Nancy Taya Aragbai, and I am the founder and visionary behind the LeadHERship Gala. I'm so excited today because this is new. This is our first time interviewing a man who's getting an award at the LeadHERship Gala. So we have a category called Ally of the Year, and I'm so excited to have Jon Exume here with us today. Jon, if you can just introduce yourself, I cannot wait to get in today's conversation and really just unpack just who you are as a leader and all of the support that you give to women.
Excellent. Yes, I'm looking forward to that. Sorry, my connection. I lost connection for a quick second, but it looks like I'm back now.
Okay,
All right.
awesome. Yeah, go ahead and introduce yourself to the audience.
Oh yes, yes. So my name is Jon Exume. I wear a couple different hats. I am the president and executive director of Technologies of Color. Technologies of Color is a workforce development nonprofit, and what we do is we curate events and experiences that are tech focused. So we work with a lot of different companies, helping them source Black talent. I am also the fractional CTO for HBCU Made, which is a social platform for HBCU students and alumni. Our app was just released October 1st. So if you go to the App Store, you can just download HBCU Made. It's a social platform for HBCU alumni and students to get connected. And then last but not least, my last job is I am the lead technical consultant for Project 3 for the Georgia AIM project, which is a project that is basically was started from the Biden Build Back America program. Some funding was given to teach the community about AI and manufacturing. So I'm part of one of I believe there's a total of between 9 and 12 projects. So I'm part of Project 3, and we are in charge of the mobile studio, which goes around the state, showcasing AI technology and manufacturing.
Awesome. So you are a big techie.
Yes, I
Uh,
am.
what it sounds like. I do want to unpack that a little bit because everything I'm hearing is an overlap of you being just a part of the technology sector in one facet or another. I'm really interested to know, like, where did this come from?
Hmm.
When did you get started? And then when did you become so committed to this work?
All right. So my commitment started way back when I was a little boy. I was about 8 years old, and my aunt, Fatima, she was a school teacher, and she got my first taste into computers.
Hmm.
Now, at 8 years old, I'm playing with GI Joes and Transformers, and then she had a computer, and she was like, "I know you like to play games, nephew. Do you want to play this game?" And I was so fascinated about the game. And she said, "Well, in order to play it, you have to put these zeros and ones." And she handed me a book. And at that young age, I was very ambitious and hungry. And so, because I was excited about the game, I sat there for the next, I don't know how many hours, almost 7, 8 hours, typing in zeros and ones
Hmm.
onto the screen to then have it compile for me to play this game. And I was getting frustrated because I was making mistakes, but I kept at it because I really wanted to play this game. And then once I was done, I started playing the game and I was just addicted. And that addiction went on, through my high school years. And it wasn't until I was getting ready to go to college that I decided and said, I want to do computers for the rest of my life. And
Hmm.
and so what I did was I became a computer science major, applied to different colleges. I was accepted, believe it or not, by MIT, Emory, DePaul University. But my parents, being from the islands, didn't want their son to go out of state. So I ended up going to a school in New Jersey called Bloomfield College.
Hmm.
And that's where I started my tech career. I was one of three Black students in the computer science program at the
Wow.
school. And so it was very challenging because I didn't see a lot of people that looked like me. And I also had a teacher who asked me the question, "What are you doing here? You guys never finish these programs anyway."
Wow.
And so that culminated with not many of us were in the program was my drive to be successful in tech.
Wow.
Yeah.
Very interesting. Being one of three in an entire program,
Hmm.
I just could imagine the challenges that you went through, the feeling that you experienced as being a part
Hmm.
of the program, and of course, the foolish comment that your instructor made.
Hmm.
Can you just talk a little bit more about your time during this program? And I am assuming, and I'm picking up on this, is kind of what has fueled you and what you do today.
Hmm.
But I would love to hear a little bit more about your experience being one of three in an entire program.
Right. So the experience when I got into the program was at first very challenging and I wanted to quit. There
Mm,
were moments within the process I wanted to quit. But then I felt if I quit, what that professor told me would become true.
mm,
And for me at that age, I think in my high school years, I was a very introverted person. And then as I got into college, I started to break out of my shell. And when people used to challenge me, I took those things very personal. And when I mean personal, I took it personal. Like, you're telling me I can't do this, or I'm going to show you, and then I'm going to rub it in your face. And so, I was one of three, and mind you, by the time I ended the program, it was only two of us who completed the program. So
wow.
one of them dropped out. So one of the students did drop out of the program. But I became obsessed with being the best.
Mm,
So my first semester, I wasn't that great. I was getting acclimated to college life. It was the first time, you know, college, didn't really have a structure. Like, I was used to having periods, and college was like, go to your class. You know, I had to go work, right? Because I wanted certain things. And so the first semester, I don't think I did that well. But then in the back of my mind, I kept on hearing that teacher say, "You guys quit anyway. Just give up."
mm,
And that just fueled me to like be in my books. And I just studied hard. And then once I got the hang of it, I became obsessively purposeful about being the number one student. Like, I wanted all the students to come to me for help, not me going to any other student for help. So I would, at the time, I was working full time. So just imagine a college student. I'm
yeah.
going to school full time. I'm working about 38 hours a week,
Wow.
and I'm also part of the commuter association, which is supposed to host events for college students. And
Mm,
so I average sleep maybe about 4 hours every single day, and maybe even less on the weekends because I was hosting parties and things. But I just became obsessed with it. And so over time, I became one of the top students. I was then invited. The school took the top 10 students to UPS. We had a capstone project, and we went to UPS's headquarters to showcase our project. And I spent nights getting my presentation ready because I wanted to have the best presentation. And my app was working great. And I never forget the I don't know if he was the president or he was like the vice president of UPS at the time. But after we presented, he came up to me and said, he asked me like, how did I come up with my project? And I kind of explained the drive, and I was told that I would never complete this, but I wanted to prove that I could do it. And back then I wasn't thinking. He asked for a copy of my project, and I gave him the copy of my project, not thinking back then that who knows, that might have been valuable. Who knows if UPS is using my technology, and I never got paid for it.
right.
But I built this program which did this calculation of subscriptions that I built, and he wanted a copy, and I just made a copy for him and handed them the disc, and Never thought about having him sign paperwork or anything like that. So who knows if they ever used it, and if they did, I didn't get paid anything for it. But I built that project, and when I walked down, so something a lot of people don't know, that professor was still at the school. At our graduation, I made it my business to let her know
Hmm.
that I was like, "You remember me? You told me I wouldn't finish.
Wow.
Well, here's my diploma," and I just showed it to her right in her face, and then I walked off.
Listen,
I walked off. But
as you should
yeah,
have.
oh yeah. I made sure she forgot that she had said that, but I made it my business to find her and show her that yeah, the student you told who couldn't make it,
Mm.
not only not only has he finished, he's passed. He actually won the capstone project. He was the highest, the student with the highest grade in his capstone project. And yes, he's shoving his degree in your face because you told him he couldn't do it.
Mm.
So
I
yeah,
love
that
that.
was.
I love that.
Mhm.
I absolutely love that. I when I think about tech, well, first and foremost, you were, I would say, one of the original OGs of tech. You know, I am, for those who don't know, I am the founding director of the Hidden Genius Project Atlanta region. And for me, and I would say in my recent years, I learned about technology and the limited access that uh, people of color have. I was a school teacher, so I knew about the digital divide, but I didn't know how that played a role into like just tech roles and us having access to these opportunities that could be transformational for a family. And so when I think about technology, you were one of the original folks who knew about technology and tech careers, right? I'm like, everyone now was like, oh, I want to be in tech, tech, tech. But I want to just transition into like the work that you do now, from your job to some of the community projects that you're working on. How did the work that, or your experiences and your experience in the workforce, how does that, how did that lead into what you do now? And I do want you to share about some of the projects that you're working on. So outside of the three roles and the three hats that he has, he's also doing a lot of work in the community. Can you share a little bit about how your just experience from being in college to being in the workforce, how that's transitioned to like all of the hats that you wear now? And I think you may have froze. Are you there? Can you hear me? Yes, I hear some background.
Yes. Do you
I can hear you
hear
now. You're back. Yes.
me?
It's a little choppy. Let me see here.
Hold on.
Mm-mm. Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Now.
Oh, so I froze as well. Okay. Yes, I hear you now.
Okay. Yeah. So looking at the work that when I got into tech. So to kind of complete the story, I grew up north. I grew up in New Jersey, New York, New Jersey area. And so taking the story after I graduated college, my aunt, that same aunt Fatima, who introduced me to computers when I was 8, she had moved to Georgia and she asked me to come visit. And I was never a fan of coming to Georgia. I was, a northern kid. I felt the South was slow. And so, but she kept on pestering, and weeks, and those 3 weeks changed my life. And I came back
Hmm.
to Jersey, and I gave my job my 2 week notice, and then I moved down
Wow.
here. And so, moving down here, um, I had gotten a job with Lucent Technologies, and the first, so here I am. I got my degree. I got my first tech job, and I go in on the first day for this new job, and they hand me a check. And I'm like, huh? a check on the first day. This must be great. I mean,
Well, I
I'm
like
loving
that.
tech,
Well, I like I
right?
like
But here's the story, Nancy. So I got the check, and I was told my first actual day of work that the company was going out of business, and they were giving me a 2 week severance package. And I'm sitting there like, excuse me, I don't have I moved here for this job. And now you're telling me that you're handing me a check. So needless to say, I spent the next 3 weeks
looking
looking
for
for work.
yes.
And that 3 weeks became 6 weeks. I finally found a job
Wow.
starting as help desk at a company, and I was emotionally destroyed because I'm
Mm,
like, I got a degree, I got a computer science degree, and I'm a help desk. Like I should be coding. I should be doing something more than this. But it was a humbling experience for me because the company I worked for, after about a year, I decided to try computer sales. I was like, I
mm,
have the gift of gab. Let me try computer sales. I went from help desk to computer sales. I became a very, very good computer salesperson,
mm.
but I still had the urge to be coding something because that's what I learned. And I felt if I didn't get into that space, I would lose my skills.
Yeah.
So then I had an opportunity with Apple, and I had Apple corporate and Apple retail. Apple retail had just became a thing, and I was being pursued by both angles. And I accepted the job with Apple retail because they offered me a little bit more flexibility. So I did that for a while. After about 3 years, decided to go into Apple corporate. And so I worked the corporate realm. And after about 10 years of selling computers and doing some small tech projects, I got into healthcare IT
Hmm.
and was there for a pretty, you know, good amount of time in my career. And one of the things that I learned is that as I excelled in my career, um, there weren't a lot of people that looked like me at
Mhm.
the workplace.
Mhm.
And so even though I got along with everybody, I was like, how do I get more people that look like me in the workplace? So I decided after being an engineer for a while, I wanted to get into management because
Mm.
I felt if I got into management, I can affect the way um, there'd be more representation of me in this workspace. So I was promoted fairly quickly, like within 5 months of being at the job, they promoted me to management, and now I had the power to hire.
Mm.
And so I started hiring people that looked like me, and just seeing the joy in their faces of someone giving them a chance. I remember I hired a young lady who three other managers interviewed her and did not want to hire her. They were like, she doesn't have the skills, she's not personable, but they didn't want to come across as racist, so they had me interview her because they didn't want her to say, all these white men, they don't like me. So I interviewed her, but I took a different approach. I wanted to know where were her passions? Like what were her passions? And um, as we spoke, she told me, you know, like we had such an amazing conversation. And then she told me some of her fears is that when she was in the interviews with the other managers, she felt intimidated because they were asking her questions that had nothing to do with the job that she was about to do.
Mm.
And so, because I had respect of the CEO and the CFO, I said I wanted to hire her. And the other managers were like, oh, no, we shouldn't hire her. She's not qualified. We shouldn't do this. But the CEO, who respected me, said, well, if Jon wants to hire her, let's hire her. And so we did. Fast forward a year later, this young lady worked her tail off
Mm.
where she worked in my department. Um, and I wanted her to spread her wings because I felt that my department, that like there weren't enough steps for her to excel in my department. So I had her transition into the implementations department.
Mm.
And what was interesting was not only did she transition after a year in the implementations department, she became the lead implementer after another year.
Mm.
So in 2 years, a young lady who she was very knowledgeable, but she was intimidated by those who interviewed her. She now is the lead implementation analyst for the company.
Mm.
And I never forget the other managers looked at me and said, John, how'd you know she'd be great? I said, I knew how she would be great when I started talking to her about what she wanted to do here. And and yes, we talked about her skills, and she was very knowledgeable. But once I found out what she really wanted to do, I said that she'll succeed here. She just needs the right mentor who's going to highlight, her strengths and to help her with her areas of opportunity. She just needs someone who can mentor her, and she'll be fine. And with just a little bit of mentorship, she became the lead implementations analyst. And then I believe when I left the company, she then became the manager of
Wow.
implementations because the manager who was there retired and wanted her to take over.
Wow.
And
Wow.
so, you know,
I just say, well, it's not shocking that you have this Ally of the Year honoree. And
mhm,
what I am seeing is you've always been an ally,
right.
and you're able to pick up on visions. Because it wasn't really about her skill set, but it's about the bigger picture. What did she want to do for the company? And you were able to
Hmm.
assess that and then give her and support her, well, advocate for her,
Hmm.
also provide the mentorship and the guidance to see that through. That is absolutely beautiful. And I think the beginning of what you actually do today. And
Right.
I want to talk a little bit about some of the work that you're doing outside of your three roles. You also do a lot of community impact work and just a lot of
Hmm.
support with other visions. And so, can you share a little bit about some of the community work that you do?
Yes. So, besides being on the advisory board of the Hidden Genius Project, which is, a, for me, it's a passion project because I love young Black boys and I want to see them succeed. Because I feel like the foundation of family after God is men, and if we build men of character, we'll have
Yes.
families of character moving forward, right? So a lot of my passion work comes from helping, like working with different nonprofits, um, being a resource, any which way I can to help them succeed in their goals. For me, I've in college, I remember I went on this little retreat, and I remember like the lead instructor of the retreat was like, when looking at your life, what you what do you want your life to be? And I remember saying on this retreat that I wanted my life to be impactful, where people talk about how I help them reach their goals. I was like,
Mm,
I was like, I don't need the spotlight. I don't need any of that. I just want people to say, hey, John helped me do X, or help me do this, or help me in my tech career do that. And I saw what my mentors over the years in tech did for me, and I just wanted to be a conduit for others. And so helping organizations do events, I've helped organizations, dealing with kids as young as 5 years old, all the way up to adults, helping them understand technology, as well as if they want to pursue a career in technology, what are the things you need to do in order to be successful in tech? And from my experience, I made mistakes, but I had people along the way who saw how dedicated I was to the work, that were able to just give me some nuggets and say, "Hey, John, maybe you should think about doing this." And I took that advice, and that advice helped me see the world, right? And so by doing that, I spend my time sharing those same nuggets with others. Um, being in tech, or just being a successful person in life. Period. I've worked with all types of organizations, helping them reach goals of impacting people. For
Yeah.
me, it's all about impact.
It's all about impact, and I absolutely love that. I want to. Are you there? Yes, there you
Yeah, I'm
are.
here.
Wonderful. I want to unpack. I am. You mentioned HBCU made, which I just learned about not
Hmm.
ago. Founder is a woman, if I'm not mistaken.
She is Scott. Yeah, Scania. Hmm.
Yes, and then love the vision behind that, and then Lincoln Power is also an org
Correct.
you support, and then also the Hidden Genius Project on the advisory. Now, I love to tell people that the LeadHERship movement is not a feminist movement by any means, but it is about understanding the power in a woman's vision, which you seem to get that very early on.
Hmm.
Um, and I say that we often need male allies in this LeadHERship movement, right? It's not about men against women, but how do we have men who recognize the power and the strength of a woman? Can you talk a little bit about one, how do you recognize the strength? Like what allows you to, and I'll say it in the most respectful way, but allow ego to be pushed to the side so the impact and the work is at the forefront. What allows you to be able to rally behind a woman with a vision and really support her and push that vision forward? What do you think about? What advice would you give to other males who it doesn't come as easy?
So for me, one of the things that how I look at life is we have to remove the barriers, right? And so especially in tech, early on in my career, I saw so many men, right? Men here, men there. And I never forget some advice that my mom gave me at a young age. My mom told me at a young age, when you get older, don't forget your sisters, right? And when I was younger, it didn't make sense when I was younger, but as I got older, it just kept on resonating in the back of my mind. Like, don't forget my sisters. I feel that men. So one of the issues that we have sometimes is that we feel that we are the know-it-alls,
Mm-hmm.
right? We know everything, and there's always been a tendency for a lot of men to not assist women in helping them achieve their goals, and I think that practice is bad. It's a bad practice. For me, what allows me to stand behind a woman is once I understand her goal and her vision, my focus is to make that vision a reality. And
Mm.
so, to me, whether it's a woman or a man who's leading that vision, if it's something for me that it aligns with me, I want nothing but the best for it. And I always feel when you work together, everybody becomes successful, not only the person who's the head of the vision. I Growing up north, one of the things that I always admired is I always admired the Jewish community. And I would spend my summers with my grandmother, and her neighbors were Jewish. And one of the things that I learned from them at a young age, and actually witnessed it with my own eyes, is that they always worked together. Didn't matter who the project was, they worked together. I remember my grandmother's neighbor, there was a building next to my grandmother, and um, I remember him, and I remember he had a meeting. He had a meeting outside of his home, and there was all these other families around the neighborhood who met at his home, and they were sitting there planning on how they would invest their money to buy this building. And I would just sit there and I would just be in awe, just like seeing them like work together. And eventually, after about a year, they got the resources together and they all bought the building. And they owned this it was a 6-story building, And it was the group economics, the men, the women, all putting together to achieve this goal. And one of the things that I've seen, especially in the tech space, is there's a level of division, right? So we have uh, like one of the things that bothers me is we have women and men separated, right? So we have all these women, all these female programs, and not many for young black men,
Mhm.
right? And to me, when I see that, it's a way for the system to divide us instead of us working together. And the thing is, even if it's a program, case in point for young men, women's input is needed, because men are very, we are very like direct and, you know, do, do things in this order, whereas women can take all that information and make it digestible for the audience it serves.
Yeah.
And for men, the advice that I give to men, because I get asked that a lot by men, is that, oh, how are you working with this person? How are you working with that person? How is it? And I'm like, it's great. It's a great relationship. I was like, once you understand the vision,
Yeah.
don't approach the one advice I always give men who want to help women with projects. Don't approach the project as you are the subject matter expert and then try to dominate where they want the vision to go. You must first understand the vision and then your expertise align it with that vision. And I
Yeah.
think what happens to men a lot of times is there are a lot of men because they feel that they're know-it-alls. If they're working with a woman and she is, let's say this is her vision and she's on a path that may not be the right path, instead of helping her see that and offering advice to steer on the right path, they want to just take over.
Yeah.
And I think that that's a bad thing, is that we should, as men, align with our women, because to me, behind every strong man is a strong woman. And
Yeah.
so as long as we learn to work together, and for me, I'm raising a daughter. So I have to be a great example for my daughter. As my daughter spends time, when she goes to these events, she's like my why. She's my why for what I do. Now, because I'm not gonna lie, for years I because I come from a big family, I didn't want kids. And
Mm.
then when I had my child, I was like, oh gosh, I'm like, I don't know how am I gonna be a great dad. And then she was a girl too.
Yeah.
And so I was like, oh man, I was like, I gotta be very protective of her. And so when I have, women who have a great vision, and for me, when a woman shares her vision, if I can see the end goal, I am all in.
Mm.
And if I can't see the end goal, I will provide some feedback to to help them see what I see, or maybe ask more qualifying questions to understand what they're trying to achieve. And case in point with the leadership program, what Nimi is doing, when me and Nimi talked about it, I saw the end goal and I was
Mm.
like, I want to be in on this project. When you asked me to be part of the Hidden Genius project, I was like, well, first of all, Nancy, you're dealing with young black boys. I'm like, that right there,
Men.
you know, on the base level was exactly. And it's funny how the Hidden Genius project came to me. I was thinking about doing something similar.
Mm.
And then, we met, and then you told me about the project. And I said, well, there's no reason to do this. It's already here.
Yeah.
And yes, Nancy's doing a great job, and she needs some advice. Yes, I want to be part of this. I want to be part of this vision because I see how it benefits. And I think
Mm.
for a lot of men, a lot of times we approach women as we are the subject matter experts and you don't know what you're doing.
Mm.
And we need to approach it in a way, let me understand what her vision is, and based on what I understand about it, let me let me help the vision come to fruition. So I think that's a thing that we as men need to we need to listen more. We don't listen enough.
Yeah.
We try to bark orders, but we need to listen more.
I'm hearing some three themes as you were speaking. One is don't confine a vision to gender.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone can have a vision, and where do you align with that vision is most important. And then second, I'm hearing like qualities of true leadership, right? Leadership is not about knowing everything or
Mm-hmm.
being in charge. It is about one growth, really, being of service. And so you're able to lead in a way you're still giving your expertise and your strengths, but it's from an area of more of like uplifting and support, and that's okay. And so I think that's mastery of ego, right? Like
Right.
knowing when to flare it, but then also reduce it and like creating space for someone else to shine. And then third, I'm hearing a theme of collective impact.
Mm-hmm.
It does require us coming together. Like when we understand that if this vision is achieved, we all win.
Right.
And it doesn't matter who it came from. It's a matter about how do we get this thing to be executed so we can manifest the true vision so we can all win.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so I think that requires us stepping out, and I say us, so man and woman, but men stepping out of themselves and understanding that the vision is for the better of us all. And so
Right.
that is my hope as we talk about the leadership gala and we talk about celebrating trailblazers of change. Trailblazers, the change only happens when we have men who also support. It's very, very crucial that
Exactly.
we have men support the vision of these trailblazers. As we come to a close, I just wanted to know, do you have any advice for any of your counterparts and men out there as more women step into their power, step into their leadership, and start and are bold enough to you know, walk in their vision and trying to create change. Any final words?
Yes. So the advice I would like to give men is men talk 20% of the time, listen 80% of the time. You will find that by talking less, you'll find out so much more than if you're dominating the conversation. And I say this piece of advice because I had to learn this advice. I learned this advice early on in my tech career because I would be the talker. And then it wasn't until a gentleman pulled me to the side and he said, "John, you have so much potential, but you talk too much. You're you're not listening." And
Hmm.
so once I started applying that, where I would just sit there and listen and then provide my thoughts, when I started doing that, my career, in terms of me growing in my career, that's when it happened for me. And
I
like
love
every promotion that I got was based on me listening more to what's being said about me, articulating my thought, and delivering the message. I remember when and I'm telling you, man, if you do that, not only will it help you career wise, it it'll help us collectively reach goals. Like one of my biggest goals is I want to see black people as a whole, and I want to see generational wealth, and not just your generation being wealthy. I want to see generations after you, 3, 4, 5, 6 times down behind you, wealthy. I I use it as an example, Nancy. The H.J. Russell, right? H.J. Russell was one of the biggest architects, uh, in the U.S. And looking now, his family, they own, H.J. Russell Architectural Company. They own the Russell Center. They own a lot of land on Northside Drive. But right now, they're on their third generation of wealth. Like his
Mm,
grandkids have businesses. His
mm,
children also run businesses. Case in point, you probably didn't know this, but his daughter runs all the concessions at Hartsfield Airport. So if you wanted to have your, you know, if you want to put a kiosk or anything in Hartsfield, you would have to go through their family
Mm,
in order to be able to put your thing in, at the airport. And so when I look at that, I'm like, he was wealthy, his children are wealthy, and now his grandkids continue the legacy. And I think if us working together, reaching goals, we'll be able to start seeing that in the Black community.
absolutely.
Because, and so for me, once I learned that, so again, listen 80% of the time, talk 20%, you'll see amazing things happen.
I absolutely love it. I encourage every man on this call, and if you are a woman on this call, I invite you and I encourage you to have a male attend the leadership gala. It is going to be absolutely phenomenal. We have amazing women being honored, but of course, this work cannot happen without our amazing allies. Jon is one of those allies. I look forward to honoring you on November 3rd. It's going to be absolutely fabulous. And wear your phenomenal outfits, get dressed,
Oh,
look
yes.
good, come connect and network. I totally look forward to having you on November 3rd. You can get your tickets at leadershipgala.com. You can also just support. I said, support a vision. We cannot get this work done without people supporting. You can make a donation or a contribution with the QR code at top, or just go to leadershipgala.com. Thank you so much, Jon, and I cannot wait to see you on November 3rd.
Thank you. Have a wonderful day, folks.
Thank you. You do the same. Bye bye.
All right, bye bye.